Okay, before we begin, make sure that you subscribe to the channel for new content that we are uploading on here every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Also, don't forget to like our videos, bookmark this channel, and also check out www.djtcell.com.
How would you describe the type of hip hop that you guys make?
It ain't no type, man. It's just really what we feel like at the moment, man.
Hello and welcome back to Statistic TV. It's your boy T-Cell, and today we're back for another episode of CellReviews, where we're reviewing the one and only album by Earthgang on their latest release called Mirrorland. This is their third album release, which was released on the 6th of September 2019. Features the likes of T-Pain, Kalani, Aaron Ray. It also features productions by DJ Khalil, Elite, Dre, Chadis Major, DJ Dahi, and many more on this project. Before I get on to the track by track review, this album was actually teased on the Dreamville project Return of the Dreamers 3 with the track Swivel. The first track, La La Challenge, probably suggesting as well that the people around the problem that sees the problem, they rather joke and jive rather than actually speak out about the problem, rather than actually do something about the problem. They forget about it the next day and joke and drive. That's the message that I got from him. I personally gave it an 8 out of 10. Up, which was produced by Exclusive, is kind of a bit of a continuation of La La Challenge. I must say, at the start of this album, I don't think the album presents itself as a cohesive story. I don't think it presents itself as something that you have to listen to everything to understand what it's trying to talk about. I don't think it presents itself as that, but it does do a very good job of transitioning and sequencing really well. Whoever put this together did a very good job of either sequencing the sonics or sequencing the stories together to make it feel really cohesive. But it can be seen as an anthology kind of a thing, because it is quite conscious, it is quite deep. They do discuss a lot of current events on this album, a lot of critique to society as well as the industry at this point. They do that a lot on this album. When I first heard this, I actually began thinking, should I actually listen to this album and separate the stories of Johnny Vegas and Dr. Dot, or should I just combine the two and say this is what Earthgang is trying to say? Because the stories are quite different. Sometimes they do intertwine, sometimes they do speak on the same thing and they agree. Sometimes you don't get that. And this track kind of presents that idea, because the content in which Dr. Dot talks about, it talks more of the nightmares he's faced. It talks more of the hardship he faces, while Johnny Vegas talks more about the dreams, about what he wants to aspire to. And in the end, they do kind of flip it and then end up saying that they both had these things to work with and they both still proved their doubts wrong. That's the idea that I got from it. 8.7 I gave this track. I personally think gave that simply because of the message that they were trying to go for. The way that they executed it was brilliant in my opinion. Now, Top Down, which was produced by Chadis Major, who also has an album out at this moment, is called Dirt Road Diamond. He actually produces this track and it's actually a fun track. This is why I say it can't be regarded as a story, because this is a complete cut from the way that they introduce themselves. This is now coming into more of relationships. They are also kind of setting the scene of a Bonnie and Clyde kind of scenario, where especially the on the nose references of the Carters, Beyonce and Jay-Z, with references such as Halo and On the Run, suggests that this relationship is talking a lot about them trying to get their freedom. Then we have Bank, which I also gave an 8 out of 10 rating. It was a good track, produced by Big Corey and as well as Ant Chambers. Commercially, this track wasn't really nothing poignant to it. I did really, like I said, I enjoyed the sonics. I think there was some really good cuts here. Bank was definitely one of them. Proud of You is a track that features Young Thug and is produced by Johnny Vegas, which is the other duo of Earthgang. Now, this track alone, I personally was impressed with Young Thug's performance on this. I actually didn't think that he would be able to bring his A game like its commercial appeal, I should say. He kind of has an appeal on here that is equally as good as what he did on Lifestyle, which catapulted him to the mainstream. Compared to the other tracks, I don't think it was as poignant. I think it was very simplistic, very basic. Nothing really stood out, that was poignant. So it got that. But in terms of Young Thug's performance, I was quite happy with it. When I saw the name, I was like, okay, what are they trying to go for here? I was actually quite impressed more with Johnny Vegas. He actually sounded a lot like Young Thug on this record. I actually got confused with it too. I actually thought, because some of the things that he was saying in the first verse, he actually sounded a lot. The first verse sounded a lot like Young Thug, that you don't even know who is rapping. I don't know if that was by accident so that they don't affect the quality of their work, or whether that's just how Johnny Vegas actually naturally sounds like, because his cadence actually changes, his flow changes in the other track. He doesn't sound like this always, but for some reason this track he really does do a good Young Thug impression here. Like, but that's not to take anything away from Young Thug. He did have some good lyrics in here, such as "Flood your bank account with all the celery and his bacon, his lettuce and relish too." I think that was funny. I think the way that he capped it off with "woo" was actually funny, and the imagery that he creates as well, meaning I'm gonna bring you all the greens. I think that was quite good. However, just 7.8 from me. Then we have This Side, which was produced by, again, Johnny Vegas, as well as Natural Average. In my opinion, this track was such a vibe and very, very catchy. I love how Dr. Dot delivered his verse. This was really masterful. The cadence on this track was exceptional. The switch up that you don't even expect to happen happened, in the sense that it's such a slow building track, and when it does drop, and when they do really say everything that's on your heart, you instantly relate, and they still retain that tone. It reminds me of the track Feel on Kendrick Lamar's album Damn. Kind of the same idea, but it's more based on Sonics, while Kendrick was basing his on his cadence, on his delivery, on his emphasis on what he was talking about. That's why I love this track. It was 8.3 from me. On the other hand, it felt like it was capping off from This Side, and I personally gave it an 8. Like I said, this is, even though it's rated lower than Up, this is my favorite track of this album. I was able to vibe with this track more. I was able to relate to this track more. I was able to see this track and say, yeah, I can play this in my sets, because there's a lot of vibe here. And in continuation from This Side, it really brings a much darker tone to the record. It goes deeper, and it's like a flip on This Side. They were a lot more vulnerable on this, really revealing how death affects people, and what their view on death is. It really builds on what was already talked about in This Side, where, of course, like I was saying, they were discussing the deaths of Misato, Sandra Brand, and how that made them feel on this side. On Swivel, I personally felt like they brought that in again, but they were not really talking like that on the nose. They were just summarizing it, like going into more detail as to as to their philosophy on what death is. Avenue was a really good track. I personally understood where they were coming from in terms of the way that people sell their souls nowadays to social media, the way that people are becoming more slaves nowadays to social media, losing their integrity, and pretty much like pretty much the way that social media has influenced a lot of people has taken their souls away from them. And this commentary from them was quite good. They had some good poignant things for them to say on this track. However, like, I didn't really like the Sonics on this track, if I was to be quite honest with you. I didn't feel really invested in the track, but I did get where they were coming from. The next track is Tequila, featuring the likes of T-Pain, who has released a new album earlier this year. It's called One Up. Tequila is actually a great song. It's a good commercial song. I won't lie. It's a good pussy cut, in the sense that it just goes through what a guy who has pretty much experienced what these guys have experienced from the story that we know so far, going to a bar, looking to relax, and it just appears as if the women in the bar are trying to trap him, hold him down, and they're just after his money, and he just has that nonchalant attitude. We get kind of an arc between between the characters that was introduced, except for obvious reasons, the T-Pain character who's just there as a filler. But we get kind of an arc where in the first verse he's loving a life, and in the second verse he realized that there's no going back from this life. He has to consistently live it because he has no trust to give to the people. I personally like this, and that's why I pretty much rated this as so highly, because the story here is actually simply, it's quite good. I can't fault it. Blue Moon is possibly the one track that very, very, very tight, very vibey. Love the jazz instrumentals. A great carry on from Tequila. Kind of the same instrumentals, like the same kind of instrumentation and sonics. It goes on really well here, and I really enjoyed this track simply because of the fact that they began to expound more on what they were talking about on Tequila. It seems like now they have actually found someone that could possibly take them out of that life, that could make them feel more than what they done, which was a great segue. I gave this an 8.4, but, and also going back to what I was saying, it was a great segue from Blue Moon onto Trippin featuring Kalani, which I gave 7.9. Trippin was a direction change that sonically I didn't expect. Now, I do understand that they kind of change it up to sound like this simply because of the fact that Kalani does do more tracks like this, and this is kind of her sound, so they were trying to accommodate that. However, for what they were building up, from what I could see that they were building up from Blue Moon, for them to transition to here, where we now get a more developed arc in which they don't want that strings attached lifestyle anymore, and they finally found that person that they can settle down with. And I guess it makes sense. I'm not gonna dog it too much because it does make sense why they will switch it up. It's more intimate now, it's more soulful. But I personally just wish that they continued on with a bit of that jazz influence that they had from Blue Moon. That's just my opinion. I do think Kalani done very well on this record. I think that she played her part really well. I think that her influence on it, where she now comes in and she is the one that's a bit more fearful now. And I do like this arc where it kind of presents the idea of how one person's decision could just throw away your whole growth, how much you have come as a person, to finally meet someone that you like and they're not even the same way interested in you. That's a great story arc. And I said earlier that the stories on this was slander. Thug featuring Aaron Ray, I gave it a 7.6. I did not really like this track. Funny enough, this was a track that had a lot of great producers on it, such as Elite, DJ Khalil, who produced for the likes of Jay-Z, Talib Kweli, Nas. If I was to mention its discography, we'll be here all day. So I'm just gonna move on. I'm gonna stop myself right there. We also had Malik the Baptist, who is quite new into the production game, produced for Ariana Grande. Thank you next, as well as Better Off. And also Ron Gilmore. This is a continuation from the story that was told in Trippin. Now, I don't give this a low rating because of the productions. The productions on this were very good. It's because of Aaron Ray's vocals. I did not really like how they handled Aaron Ray's vocals on this. I thought they butchered it a little bit. Other than that, story-wise, Thug does give us a lot more context to what possibly had happened in Trippin, where Kalani's verse suggested that she's just gonna go back to her life. It does give us that context to say that he was the one that was messing up. He was the one that was cheating. And yes, he now realizes, shoot, I shouldn't have done that. I need to try and get her back. It was good to see that kind of arc again. Like I said, the continuation from it, from the story that was being told earlier. It's good to see that kind of arc in which he realizes, shoot, my life has caught up with me. The life that I was living unattached, that unattached lifestyle is really bad for me because now I've lost someone that I really cared about. And from this, I thought that was really good. Fields, I gave 7.7 simply because I don't know why in the end we had that long silence. I think that was really unnecessary. I think that really took me out. I had to check whether it was actually coming to an end. It does bring a good conclusion to the story in which roots never change, meaning once you're supplanting into who you are, that's who you are, and capped up beautifully simply because of the fact that that's the story that they've been going on for the past 4 or 5 tracks. now they brought it to a close. And in my honest opinion, great closing. It's just I don't know why they had to go and just fade. They faded out, and I thought that was it. And it was like that for a whole minute. That was one part I didn't actually like from it. I don't know what they were trying to achieve from it. However, Wings, I personally gave this a 7.8. I thought it was quite good. It was produced by it was produced by DK the Punisher, Dre, not Dr. Dre or Dre from Cool & Dre, but this is the Dre that produced a lot of Chris Brown's tracks. Yo Excuse Me is one of them. It was a really good finish because with Wings, as it suggests by the title, this is when they're finally moving on. This is when they're finally learning from their mistakes, and they're now getting stronger so that they can move on with your life, so that they can fly and become a much better person. It was really incredible how they sequenced this. There's a lot of thought that gone into this album for an album that didn't really appear to be a concept album or anything like that. Kind of making me think, what was the significance of the first 3 tracks? Because that was the only part that I was thrown off. I was like, okay, cool. Is this kind of a pick and choose and but still conscious, or is there actually a story to this? And as I found out, that's the greatest surprise of this album. There's actually an arc going on. There's actually kind of a cohesive story that has actually managed to come out it works. Overall, let me just do some quick maths. So overall, the scores add up to 80%. Listen, I personally recommend that you actually buy the MP3 version of this album. I think it's only out digital download as well as streaming. Honestly, best purchase that you will make this year, simply because of the fact that there is a lot to take away from this album. I think the album really changes after Bank. I think after Bank, I'm Proud of You does suggest that this is when the story begins in terms of this love story. I think this is when it really begins, and then we really head down the rabbit hole. But yeah, thanks so much for checking out this review. I'm curious to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Did you hate it? Did you love it? Is Earthgang going on top? Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think again in the comments below. Personally, this album, I personally think that Earthgang can top this. I think that I'm eagerly waiting on their next project to see what they have got going on. But yeah, make sure that you subscribe and also check out the other videos that we have on the channel. Don't forget, we have a new podcast landing on Monday, so make sure you check that out. See you on the next review. Peace.